take the time and say thank you for allowing me to come out and share some of my story. The focus point the focus points are going to be, my story, my life leading up to the Marine Corps, my time in the Marine Corps, then obviously my recovery and what's going on now. Experiences growing up. I grew up in a household with, drug addict, alcoholic parents. Moved out of the house when I was 15 years old and said, you know what, I want to start my life and I don't want to be a part of this. And I don't have any animosity or bad feelings towards my parents. Actually, I thank them because it made me the person that I am today, and I know that's I ended up graduating from high school in 2007 from Uniontown High School, and from there I went into the Marine Corps, and I went to Parris Island. Any other Marines in here? You got a couple, thank God. Any Army? You know what Army stands for, right?
No.
Ain't ready for Marines yet? Do we have any Vietnam veterans in here? Thank you guys very much, and first and foremost, welcome home. And at any time that I speak, I make this a point. Think about, when you guys came home, how you were treated. I mean, I wasn't there to experience it, but I've heard the stories, and I'd like to think that if I was alive back then, I'd probably be in jail right now for murder, because if I would have saw somebody, spit on you or, say those things to you, I probably would have lost my mind and had no idea what I would have done. But the reason I was treated so well, the point that I'm getting at, the reason I was treated so well when I came home, unfortunately, was because of how poorly you guys were treated when you came home. And you took it upon yourselves to make sure that I had everything that I needed to live a successful life after my time. Went over to California, did our desert training, then we went to Iraq in 2009. In early 2009, the war in Iraq was pretty much over. Didn't really do anything while we were there. Spent 7 months living in the desert, eating 5 times a day, lifting weights and doing all that good stuff, and not really doing what we trained to do. And the whole time I'm thinking, is this what I joined the Marine Corps for? I joined to actually do something. And I felt like we didn't do anything while we were there. And it was almost like a letdown. I'm thinking that I'm going to go over there and I'm going to make a difference, I'm going to meet all these people, and I'm going to experience this culture and all these things. And literally we just sat in the desert as celebrities were flying into the base to play concerts and do all this good stuff. Magicians do magic shows on base, and this is what we're doing. This is where all the taxpayer money's going. So then after 7 months, we came home. I got promoted. I became a corporal and a squad leader. So I had a responsibility to train up a group of Marines. I had 5 Marines that were in my squad, and my job was basically to train them and prepare them for combat. I was 20 years old at the time, and I'm sitting here thinking, these guys, their life is in my hands. If I don't do what I'm supposed to do, they could die, and that's something that I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life. So we spent the next year training very, very hard. It was not out of the ordinary to wake up in the morning, get all our guys outside and go run 15 miles, 20 miles in boots and pants, and come back and do it all over again. Those are the type of things that we were doing once we were told that we were going to deploy to Afghanistan. We knew, and I'm sure everybody followed the media and everything that was going on in that point, but in 2009, 2010, we had a surge in sending troops to Afghanistan. We were pulling out of Iraq, sending everybody to Afghanistan. I think in that year alone, in 2010 when I went, we had sent an additional 100,000 troops just in that year. And we were seeing all these men and women come back getting wounded, and that's when they started to make the change in the hospitals and investing the money, and the timing was perfect for me to get hurt because I had all the good stuff when I came home. So we got sent over to Afghanistan in September of 2010, and I remember before we left, the platoon got together and everybody was talking to us, and they basically said, hey, this deployment is going to be completely different than the last one. And I didn't really understand what that meant, never being in combat. I mean, the Vietnam vets that are in here, I'm sure all of you got shot at. All of you got, some of you got blown up. Some of you have seen some of your friends unfortunately lose their life, lose limbs. And I'm sure you agree with me on this, but you can say whatever you want. You have no idea what you're going to do until you're put in a situation where it's life and death, people are shooting at you, you have to shoot back, and you have to defend yourself, or you're going to die. You never picture them. How old were you when you went to Vietnam?
19.
19. So I was 20 years old, you know what I mean? And you were probably thinking the same thing. What are we going to do over here?
I was petrified.
Why didn't you? Exactly, right? And, I was afraid too. And people were like, you were scared? Like, what do you mean you were scared? I'm thinking, if you weren't scared, there's something wrong with you, You should be scared. But, 19, 20 years old, you had no idea, what you were getting into. People would tell you all day, you're going to see your friends die, you're going to see your friends get blown up, but you really don't know how it's going to affect you or how it's going to make you feel until you see it. And the right thing to do would be take care of your guys. You do. I wouldn't ask them to do something that I wouldn't do myself first. So what should I do? Well, I should probably be the one to go in and get them. So I grabbed the stretcher on my left arm, rifle on my right arm, and I remember I take that first step. Nothing happened. I got a Marine on the other side that's with Lance Corporal Chavis, working on him, keeping him awake, keeping him alert, kind of directing me where to go. And he says, all right, take another step to your right. So I took another step to my right. Nothing happened. Had about 18 more steps to go. He says, okay, go straight. On that third step, I stepped down, and there was an explosion. And it felt like it blew me up in the air. Felt like I saw the sky, I saw the ground, and I saw the sky again. And I thought, well, hey, that's the first time I've ever done a backflip in my life. That's great. Awesome. I land, I look up, I see the sky, and I'm thinking, what just happened? Somebody just stepped on it. See the look in his eyes. He thought that I probably wasn't going to make it. And I started to think about everything that has happened up to that point in my life, and the way that I lived my life. And I could honestly say that I don't know if I would be happy or proud of everything that I had done up to this point in my life. There were a lot of things that I would have changed or done differently. Up to that point, the greatest thing in my life, and there's nothing wrong with this, was joining the Marine Corps. And I thought, I should have accomplished a lot more than just that. Not saying that that's bad, but I thought that I was going to be able to do a lot more in my life by the time that I had passed, and I just wasn't happy with that. I wasn't the greatest friend, the greatest boyfriend, the greatest son, the greatest brother. I could have done things a lot differently. If it didn't benefit Brandon, chances are Brandon didn't want anything to do with it. And that's just how it was. And I recognized that for whatever reason. And I thought, if I make it through this somehow, some miracle, the rest of my life is going to be different. It's not just going to be about what Brandon can do for Brandon. But if I can get through this, it's going to be, what can Brandon do for somebody else? And I just knew that the rest of my life had to be different if I was given another chance, another opportunity in life. So I remember laying there and, getting real cold, getting real hot, my breathing's getting real shallow, both of my lungs were collapsed, I'd broken my back, broke my arm, lost the tip of my trigger finger, had shrapnel throughout my face, most of my teeth were knocked out, was blind for a little while, couldn't see. I don't know if that was due to the IED or if it was due from the medication they gave me, but I remember I couldn't see for a little while. And I'm telling you right now, whatever it is that you're going through, somebody else has gone through it or worse, and they found a way to get through it. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm telling you, nobody is unique to whatever it is that they're going through. Somebody else has experienced it, I guarantee it. We might not ever find that person or hear another story, but somebody else has gotten through a divorce, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a job, the loss of a business, the loss of limbs, the loss of, whatever. Somebody else has found a way to get through it. So what excuses do we have? My reasoning is I was at the hospital. I was there with the guy that lost both of his legs and both of his arms. All 4 limbs. He was the first one to survive, quadruple amputee from Iraq or Afghanistan. And he got up every day and went to therapy, went to the gym, was happy, had a smile on his face. So what excuses do I have? I have to do something with it. So I remember retiring from the Marine Corps after 2 years at the hospital. So I spent from December of 2010 to December of 2012 recovering at the hospital. I lived in the hospital I was in the ICU for about a month, and then I lived in the hospital for about another 6 months in a bed. So about 7 months, confined to the bed. And then once I was able to start doing therapy and getting fitted for my legs, doing all those good things, got back in the gym, started working out. Ended up retiring and moving home back to Uniontown in 2012, and went back to school, studied business at Penn State, started traveling around the world speaking, sharing my story, motivating, Fortune 500 companies, professional sports teams, high schools, colleges, churches, basically anybody that would allow me to come speak. I just wanted to share my story and try to motivate people. Then I fell into the business world. Started meeting people throughout the construction industry, oil and gas, the energy industry. Ended up starting a company, BRS. So Ian mentioned it at the beginning. My company's 2 years old. We're right here in Westmoreland County. Civil engineering, land development. I have a couple PEs on staff. Surveying, PA, West Virginia, Ohio. Environmental consulting, materials testing. Basically anything in construction, that's what we're doing. And just being honest, I found an industry. I went to school, studied business, found an industry that was very patriotic, that loved supporting veterans, and there weren't any service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, which is a certification that you get through the government. We could not find any. Me and my business partners that were in the engineering world, were the surveying. So we thought we could be a specialty. So I started to kind of force myself to get into the business and to the industry. Spent the last 5 years before I had started my company down in South Point, meeting all these people with Range Resources, EQT, Dominion, learning about oil and gas, learning about engineering. And then we thought, hey, now is the time. Let's start our company. And we're 2 years in. Thankfully, we made it through the pandemic. It wasn't pretty, but we're still here, which a lot of people can't say that. We're still working. We're growing, going into the winter, and we're just happy to be in Westmoreland County. Everybody's been really, really gracious to us.